The mission of Prophet Nuh was a 950-year class war that concluded when a black wall of water annihilated an unstoppable empire. The battle began in Lower Mesopotamia, circa 3000 BCE. This region between the Tigris and Euphrates saw the birth of the world's first fully developed class society. A tiny elite of rulers and high priests controlled every irrigation canal and grain silo. They occupied massive stone ziggurats that loomed over the mud brick slum lived. The ancient Mesopotamian state operated as a meticulously engineered machine designed to extract wealth from the poor to feed an untouchable ruling class. To guarantee obedience, the priestly class weaponized 5 state-funded idols: Wad, Suwa, Yaguth, Yauk, and Nasser. These cults normalized systemic exploitation and tribal warfare as the divine will of the temple. This dense clay ledger records the engine of their oppression, the Ra. The state forced the poor into high-interest debt contracts just to survive. When a laborer defaulted, the math dictated a brutal consequence. His entire family became permanent temple slaves. Official cylinder seals, like the one that made this impression, authenticated the elite's monopoly over the law. Rulers routinely altered these tablets to increase debts, leaving the poor with no legal defense. This cycle of debt and ideological control was so perfectly corrupt that it required radical, divine intervention to dismantle it. When Nuh commanded his people to worship one god, he was declaring economic war. In Sumer, worshipping Allah meant breaking the state idols, refusing temple taxes, and canceling the unjust debts. His followers were exclusively the Mustadafun, the socially despised, the laborers, and the enslaved who had nothing to lose. The empire responded with systematic torture. State enforcers beat Nuh unconscious with heavy rods, leaving him to wake up days later with bleeding ears. A moment of wonder. Nuh endured this cycle of public torture for over 9 centuries, returning to the marketplace to preach every time he recovered. His survival proved that the empire's monopoly on physical violence was powerless to stop a movement fueled by divine liberation. Eventually, the divine command arrived to build an ark in a dry mountain valley. This diagram shows its massive scale, a 6-to-1 length-to-width ratio, identical to the most stable modern cargo ships. Constructing a colossal wooden ship far from water functioned as a daily public insult to the ruling class, who relentlessly mocked the concept. The most devastating threat came from inside Nuh's home. His wife operated as a state informant, secretly reporting the names of Nuh's followers to the executioners. His son, Canaan, also hid his disbelief until the end, choosing to trust the physical high ground of the old world over his father's ship. As the flood surged, Nuh begged his son to board the ark. Canaan refused, and a massive dark wave swelling over the rocky ridge violently pulled him under, permanently separating them. In this moment, loyalty to the divinely appointed guide replaced biological lineage as the only true measure of kinship and salvation. The deluge annihilated the infrastructure of control. The waters drowned the mud brick slums, flooded the palaces, and melted the clay ledgers of debt back into the earth. This destruction left a physical record. Archaeologists excavating the royal cemetery of found a sudden, thick layer of flood sediment covering the graves of the early dynastic period. The 5 colossal stone idols shattered, and the ziggurats were submerged, leaving the wooden ark floating above the ruins of the empire. The deluge acted as a surgical strike, liquidating nearly a millennium of institutionalized human exploitation in a single catastrophic event. In Shia 12er theology, the physical ark was a historical parable meant to establish an eternal blueprint for survival. This tradition teaches that just as Nuh's followers were saved by boarding his vessel, every generation requires a guide to navigate worldly corruption. The Prophet Muhammad explicitly applied this metaphor to his family, designating the Ahlul Bayt as the spiritual Ark of Humanity. This history culminates in the city of Najaf. Nuh's physical journey ended with his burial in the same earth that now houses this glowing entrance, the shrine of Imam Ali. The architect of physical liberation and the guide of spiritual salvation rest side by side. Beneath this expansive golden dome, they serve as a silent witness to an unbroken chain of divine guidance.